today. So pleased that you can join us today. We are celebrating in a big way. Woohoo! Today, as I'm sure all of you know, is the 40th anniversary of the release of the Pac-Man video game. And today we are celebrating in a very big way, because if you are a child of the 1980s like myself, this was formative to you. The experience of playing Pac-Man as a kid and growing up was so much fun. And I'm so happy and pleased to be a part of the anniversary today. Because today, on deck, we have so many cool things that you're going to absolutely love and have some fun with. And, you know, this is really a much needed respite from what's going on in the world. So I want you to sit back, relax, and let's go retro to the 1980s. And with that, I do want to bring on our very, very first guest. We have lots of great guests here today. And my first guest is none other than Jerry Buckner. And for those of you that don't know, let me bring on Jerry here. Hey, Jerry, welcome to the show.
Oh, why do people always do this? They get on camera and they go, hi, you know.
Hey. So, hey, Jerry, thank you so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate it. I know we're all excited about Pac-Man anniversary. Why are we here today? Why are you here specifically today?
Well, it's the 40th anniversary of the birthday of Pac-Man, the icon known worldwide, all over the place. Everybody knows Pac-Man and loves him. And we're here to do that. And we have a very special video today. We have taken a live video that Gary and I did many, many years back in '82. And electronically, because of Mike Stewart, have brought Gary into a video with all the original musicians on the session, and it's a very cool video, and can't wait for you folks to see it. But it's a first time thing. First time Gary and I have kind of worked together again, and so that's what we're here for. The main reason, and we're gonna, I guess, talk to some folks, answer some questions, and just have a fun time.
Absolutely. So the cool thing, you mentioned Mike Stewart. I'm going to bring Mikey on here. And we do, in fact, hey, Mike.
There you go, Jerry. There you go.
So,
hi,
hey,
Mom.
Hi, Mom. So really, really cool thing. You're just mentioning, or Jerry was just mentioning the re-release or some new iteration of the Pac-Man Fever song. And I know we're going to play that here for folks in just a second. But before we do, is there anything you want to say to kind of cue it up?
Well, you know, Jerry and Gary have been dear friends of mine. I met Jerry, I'll be honest with you, 42 years ago. And we used to do all kinds of music back in those days. And I was, was blessed to be. That's why I have the gold record. Jerry and Gary allowed me to be a part of the project. I did keyboards on the album. And Jerry has been my dear brother of another mother, just like you, Daniel, for many, many years. And when Chris Bowman, who is featured in the video, got married in 1982, we all attended the wedding. And that was the only footage of Gary singing the song that wasn't on television. The guys did Solid Gold and they did the Dick Clark show, but this is footage that we have the rights to. And so we got an idea for the celebration of Pac-Man's 40th birthday. Let's put the band back together. You know, it's kind of like the Blues Brothers. Let's put the band back together. And virtually in quarantine, all the original musicians were able to perform on this video. And it's just a special memory for all of us, and hopefully it will be for you too. So that's why we put the video together, and we also wanted to make an announcement about our Pac-Man Fever book, which we'll tell you more about later.
Okay, cool. So the thing that I want folks to know is that you put this together with the help of all the presently living musicians, right, Mikey?
That's correct. Everybody, and you're going to see their names, but Rick Hinkle, Danny Jones, Davey Cozy Cole, and Jerry and myself, We all contributed via iPhones through the internet, and Jerry and I were able to edit together a video that were, in fact, quoting Jerry's wife was very touching. Jerry, you got any comments?
Well, I just want to mention that sadly, the original drummer who played on the record, Jenny Whitaker, passed away several years ago, or she would be with us today. But of course, we have Danny Jones, who played drums on all the project too, and all the album and everything. But we want to just mention her, and I think we're ready to go.
And we got to mention, Jerry, that Gary was a brother to you and I as well. The first week I was in Atlanta, I met you and you and Gary walking up the sidewalk to your apartment, and that friendship lasted a lifetime. And we, this is an honor of Gary, who was Mr. Pac-Man Fever.
Well, it is. Gary and I grew up together. We went to school together from grade school on, and he had, some bands. I had some bands, but we got together and played together. And I remember one of his first bands in high school. It was himself and a drummer, and he called himself Biggie and his Rat. It was, as he would once say, pretty horrible. And he said, the day I did that, they used the PA system in the gym, and he said I was getting shocked on the microphone. It was a mess. But we were close. He was my brother, and I love him. I miss him, and we did a lot of stuff together. And he's responsible for the opening line. I got a pocket full of quarters, headed to the arcade, which I think covers the whole era.
Yes.
And so, Gary, we love you. We know you're looking.
Yeah, down. Gary. Hey, Gary's here today, and you know what? How soon do you guys want to debut this video? I'm excited.
Well, let's ask the audience. Let's y'all want to see the debut of the revised edition of Pac-Man Fever? Let us hear from you in the comments. By the way, if you are just joining us, would really appreciate if whatever platform you're on, because we're going out to everywhere. And if you could throw a like on the page, and of course subscribe to whatever channel you're listening to, that would be awesome. And what would also be great is if you have fans, friends, colleagues that are likewise lovers of 1980s pop culture, then share this video. Go ahead and do that right now while we're thinking about before we air this edition here of Pac-Man Fever. And the really cool thing about Pac-Man Fever for me, because I was, I think, 12 years old when this came out, and I bought the album. I was playing in the arcade, so that's one of the reasons why I'm just so tickled to be a part of this today. So let's see if people really want to hear it.
Hey, Daniel, let's hear it. Yes, play it. Pack ready. AAA. Thumbs up. Come on, get it going. Rick Hinkle says, I'm here. Pat McManus says, I'm here. I mean, guys are getting excited.
Let me mention a couple of things. When you see Rick Hinkle playing lead guitar, Rick, just a fantastic musician. Rick pulled out the guitar, the Les Paul, gold Les Paul that he actually used on the record. Just kind of a cool thing. But I wanted to say something else. I want to mention Arnie Geller's name. Arnie Geller was a dear and close friend. He worked with the Bowie Geller organization, and believe me, without his guidance and direction, the song would never have happened. Sadly, we lost him recently, and I just want to say, mention his name too. He was an integral part of this.
Hey, I got a shout out to Jules. Jules, you'll see the book strategy before you know it. So
awesome. So the great thing about this song, and everyone that loves Pac-Man, is it kind of summed up the entire era. And and I really love this, because I actually read this in the Namco press release that they put out, that although Pac-Man was really popular before this song came out, essentially what they said in their press release was that the song propelled the game to pop culture iconic status. So with that, let's go ahead and yes, sir.
I'm sorry, just thought of something. Sorry to interrupt your great introduction there. Can I tell my Toru Iwatani story real quick?
Tell it.
Yeah, on the 35th anniversary, we went to Chicago, was invited to come up there, and Toru Iwatani, who was the creator of Pac-Man, was there. Didn't speak a lot of English, but he had an interpreter, and he and I got to meet and talk, and everything was going great. And at one point, he leaned over and kind of quietly in my ear, he goes, "I got Pac-Man Fever." He sang the song, and I thought that was just the coolest thing in the world. So, Toru, if you're watching, we love you and thank you for your wonderful creation.
With that, let's roll it. All right. So, woohoo!
Hey, guys, the chat is blowing up. People, so it looks like you had so much fun. I got Pac-Man Fever. Evening from the UK. Used to wait for my radio station to play this so I could record it. Finally get to hear a song. Oh, that's great. Epic guitar solo incoming. Man, thank you guys so much.
That was when I saw that, I'm like, holy cow, this is masterful. So hey, Mikey. So one of the things that that I really kind of wanted to chat about here, because you might have noticed at the end of that video, there was a book that came up called Pac-Man Fever. Y'all see that? Yep. So it's over Jerry's shoulder there and over Mike's shoulder. I would love if you two could kind of tell us a little bit about what that's about. Mikey or Jerry, whatever.
Well, we kind of got together last year and talked about doing something. I get a lot of great comments on my on the email about the song and where it came from and why we did it and all those things, and seemed to be a lot of interest in it. So we decided we would put together a little book that folks could find out all the stories. There's a lot of funny stories that happen with it, and Daniel got involved in it. He's a publisher. And so we all put it together, and it's out. And I think people would enjoy reading it. Got some great stories in there. One story, if I could just tell to give you an idea what I'm talking about. Back in the day, we were asked to appear on a Nickelodeon program. It was kind of a talk show thing for kids, and they had a host and an audience, a live audience. And so what they did is they had devoted a whole show to the whole video game craze. Now you have to understand it was nuts. I mean, the whole world was involved and caught up in the game, and Pac-Man Fever was the main thing. So they had us all in the green room prior to this live show, and they had different people, some TV people, some of the TV stars were in there, and they had some of the people from Nintendo and some of the game companies, and they had a group of ladies who had put together an anti-video game video at the time, or not video, but anti-group. And they were traveling the country, getting some press and so forth. So they brought them in to get that. Well, it wasn't long until the game people got into it with the ladies' anti-video game group. And it got kind of ugly, everybody yelling. And I'm sitting next to one of the ladies, and Gary and I, and I'm thinking, when they find out, who we are, they're probably going to, kill us. So we just tried to stay calm. Well, the lady suddenly at some point turned to me and she said, "Are you the guys that do Pac-Man Fever?" And I said, I said, "Yes," quietly. She goes, "My daughter has a record. She loves it. I want to get your autograph for her." And I said, "Oh, okay, sure." So we did that. And then she promptly went on national TV and ran down the whole video game industry. But we got a lot of funny stories like that. So I just want to share that with you. But I think it's a fun book.
Well, excellent. So, Mikey, tell them what's so special about this book.
Well, the reason this book came about is I live here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I've been a part of the music industry my whole life. I own a recording studio with, in fact, Danny Jones. Hey, Danny, I see he's here. My partner, Danny, we were a band. And the music industry has been in turmoil since the beginning of Napster. The world doesn't buy vinyl as much as they used to. They don't buy CDs. Everybody listens to music on their phone. And so I got the idea last year that you can sell music through Amazon in a Kindle book. And Daniel is the Kindle expert publisher of the world. And I am a musician, audio marketer. So I said, Daniel, we should prove to the world that people can buy music in Amazon through Kindle, which will help the music world and help Pac-Man Fever and help Jerry and Buckner Garcia have something that's more valuable than just a download or a stream. And so that was the concept. And Daniel was the guy who said, well, we need, I said, we need a famous song to do this with. And that's why I got Jerry involved. And I said, Jerry, if we can just come up with the stories, combine the music, there's sheet music in it, there's a karaoke track, there's a secret membership site, there's a country version of Pac-Man Fever by Edgell Groves. This book is not just a 45-page Kindle book. It is an archive of multimedia, and it's available. And one of the things we want to do today was announce the book and also show you, when you see that little square checker thing, the QR code, all you do is open your camera and hold it, and you're one click away from being able to get the book. So, we want We want musicians and songwriters to be able to, because we're all locked down right now. They don't, one of the things that's terrible, we would love to perform someday, but nobody's performing. So this is something you can do. Live streaming, digital sales on Amazon, and it also, celebrating music, celebrating the 40th anniversary. That's what it's about. In fact, celebrating, this is a segue, Daniel and Jerry. I think it's time to bring in our guest, but be sure to go to Amazon and get the Pac-Man Fever Kindle book. You won't regret it. You won't regret it. I promise you. It's so much fun, and it was fun making it with Jerry. And that was the inspiration last year. And now it's launched and it's available. And we just need happy people enjoying what we created. Jerry, any final words before we bring on this secret special guest?
We also have a very special secret guest. Yes.
Bring him on. Let's have, and if you got some questions, we'd be happy to answer them, talk about the record, and bring him on. Let's get him on here. One of my good buddies.
So before we do that, why don't you, Jerry, why don't you introduce who we are going to bring on here?
Well, we are going to bring out here the top video game player. He was voted the top video game player of the 20th century. He can tell you about that. But he's one of the, we met several years ago. We've been good friends ever since. And Billy is just a close, dear friend. And one of the driving forces, he and Walter Day, when I mention Walter Day, we love Walter. They've been the driving force in classic video games and keeping all this going. So I'm going to shut up now and just welcome the guy the first man who took the Pac-Man machine all the way to the end, among other things. And Billy Mitchell, please. Hello, come in.
Hey, Billy.
Sir. How you doing? You mentioned Walter Day. He's not here, but I got him here in spirit. He's got his own book, and
yes.
He has plans for you to be in the book because you're one of the people on his trading cards.
Walter, we love Walter. He's a great guy. Done so much for this industry, so much.
Well, I got to say, you were talking about the influence that you made on the industry, and of course, it was tremendous. I got to tell you, the influence you made on me before I met you, I guess it's good. It's not necessarily always good, and here's what I mean. I had planned on having a nice, relaxing weekend, and then I get a call from somebody says, "Hey, Jerry's doing this special thing, this special this, this special that," and I go, "Oh, well, if he's doing that, why don't you play for a perfect game?" Why don't I? I could give you a dozen reasons why. And matter of fact, why don't you call him and see how you can work together? So of course I called you, so I didn't have my relaxing weekend because of you. But the fact of the matter is, every time something comes up, I'm just sitting minding my business in a restaurant, in a bar, or anywhere. I could be and the jukebox randomly chooses songs. So it randomly chooses Pac-Man Fever. And then every eye in the place turns towards me. I didn't do anything. I'm just sitting here. People think I went up and I played the song and I'm trying to rally the crowd. So you come to affect me and remind me of who you are so often in so many ways. But I wanted to tell you the story about the first time a friend of mine, Chris, he and I learned the game together. And he's a manager at a supermarket. And about 6:30 in the morning before they were open, over the PA, for the first time, somebody played and he heard the song Pac-Man Fever. And he's running around the store crazy trying to figure out what it is, because he's an absolute fanatic. And he calls me on the phone. And back then, it wasn't so easy to get people on the phone like it is now. But he got me on the phone, and I could hear it blasting over the phone. And I just thought he was playing a trick on me. I didn't think anything was going on. He was like, "Yeah, there's this song." And I go, "There ain't no song. I would have heard about it by now." And he goes, No, there's this song. And so that was my first introduction to you, your song, everything you put together. But again, the truth is that as the years have gone on, you've constantly stuck with it. You've become a part of the icon that is Pac-Man, a part of that culture. When I was in Japan with Masaya Nakamura, the father of Pac-Man, he and I spoke about you. And of course, as you say, we were both there with Tori Ayakwani in Chicago, and we spoke about you. So you've definitely, you and your people have carved your way into an icon in history. Basically, that's going to live on forever. It's going to outlive all of us, and naturally, it should.
Well, thank you, Billy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for those kind words. I'd like to tell my first story about you, about first meeting. It was kind of a funny story, if I may. And you may
watch out. There's children on the stream, so be careful.
I'll tell you this. So we're introduced and we start talking and so forth. Well, the album, which the vinyl album, had a sleeve with it that had supposedly it was a cheat sheet for kids to be able to play Pac-Man and cheat it and get higher numbers. And that came with the album, and people really loved that. Well, Billy and I are talking, and Billy says, by the way, he said, that sheet you guys include, he said, it doesn't work. It's not that good. It doesn't really work. I said, okay. So I made him sign one of the cheat sheets with his, and I meant to pull it out here, but that's how I met. But I'm going to tell you, Billy Mitchell, the kind of guy he is, we were in Chicago on the 35th anniversary, and we had a big dinner that they threw for all of us. And there was a couple of kids that were in there, and they wanted to talk to Billy. Billy gets up, and Walter, and forgets their meal. They go out and they spend time with this kid and talk to him and so forth. I was so impressed. And that's the kind of guy he is. And I just want to say that because we love you, Billy, for who you are, for everything you do in the business, but who you are, man. You're a good guy.
I appreciate it very much. Very, very much. It's I always tell people that when I go to a show or I go to an event, actually playing the game is the least important thing I do. Interacting with people, meeting with people, talking, chatting, selfies, autographs, stories, questions and answers. Without a doubt, that is the most valuable part of what I do. And I learned that because one of my first big trips into the media, I was in New York. I was at a movie theater. I was sectioned off and I was playing a game and I played for hours. People were roped off and it was time to go and close the theater and it was time for me to go. And I thought, well, I guess that was whatever it was. And then in came the hate mail. I traveled 3 hours. You couldn't even turn around and talk to me. Geez, oh man, what's wrong with you? So I learned quickly that the interaction with the people, the questions and getting personal is absolutely the most valuable part of what we do.
Do we have some questions that we could answer, guys? Daniel?
Well, I have a question for Billy. I just wanted to know, I mean, you mentioned coming in that Billy was named the top video game player of the 20th century. Billy, I would like to personally know how that came to be.
Well, the truth is if I was not in character, I would tell you the truth in that I had a lot of good luck and good fortune. But since I'm in character, I'll tell you that during the 1980s, during the golden age, I simply never, ever missed an event, ever, under any circumstances. I was always there, always there. You can't get lucky. You can't win if you're not there. And I would always go and I would leave some kind of mark, some kind of high score, some kind of record. In 1984, I was crowned Video Game Player of the Year. And all of this continued to go into the Guinness Book. But in the mid 80s, as the arcades began to decline, the organized competition simply came to a close. Well, now it's 1999. Games are on the 20th anniversary, and now they become a classic, much like a car becomes a classic, and there's a renewed interest. They were coming out with the 20th anniversary of Pac-Man. Various events were starting to happen. And it was at that time at Fun Spot, the largest arcade in the world. Again, I won't lie to you, it's good fortune. I was in the right place at the right time. It was the 4th of July weekend. That's where this comes. I was going up against a guy from Canada, and the balls fell in my favor. But the biggest thing was that story on a quiet weekend where there's no world events happening like now. The story ran around the world. It was in every paper in every country you could ever imagine. And all of that brought to the attention of in Japan and an invitation to Japan. And that was without a doubt the absolute climactic point of my video career, the good fortune and all that I enjoyed. And it was there on stage with Masaya Nakamura, with many argue as the godfather of video games, the founder of Namco, and he was whatever position he was in the Japanese Amusement Machine Manufacturers Association. And he presented me with the Video Game Player of the Century Award. And that sounds good. It sounds cool, and it is. And I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It's super cool.
Yeah,
I also took on the responsibility at that point that if I was given that honor, I had to take the position not just of playing, but pushing and promoting and advocating for competitive gaming, to be an ambassador of video games and all that should go with it. And that's what came, going to shows, doing events. And again, one thing after another, it's good fortune. Then the movie cameras started following us, and many, many movie cameras. And one thing led to another. I've often thought, how could I take and create all that energy into one place and make it explode again? And I mean, I can't. I've thought about it. It was a once in a lifetime thing that fell together for me, and yeah. I remember being there saying, gee, do I really want to go up to Fun Spot and play? And gee, well, yeah, I already got my ticket. I'll go. Just like last year on the 20th anniversary, I said, I'll go back and do it again. And it was like a couple days before, I go, man, do I really want to go back and do it again? And I remembered, I says, geez, I said that the first time. No, I got to go back and do it. And I had promised Bob Lawton, the owner of Fun Spot, 88 years old, the kindest, gentlest guy in the world, that I'd come back and do it. And I took it as a challenge, because he did that thing that somebody who's about 88 years old does. They look over their glasses and they raise one eyebrow like that. And he goes, Billy, you think you can just walk in here and do a perfect score, do you? And I said, yeah, who do you think you're talking to? So I took that as a challenge to go do it. And again, with good fortune, I did it again on that 4th of July weekend.
That's awesome. And by the way, I just want to send a call out to folks watching here live. If you are here live and you have questions for any of us, please get them into the chat right now. If you have a question about Pac-Man, the 40th anniversary, about Billy's awesome accomplishments, about Pac-Man Fever, or about the Pac-Man Fever Kindle music ebook, get those into the chat right now, and we will absolutely take your questions.
Well, I'll start off with a question. Jerry, when you first put this together, okay, there's 2 of you that were in the spotlight, but of course there's many of you that it took to create what you did. My question is, was there one of you that was far more knowledgeable about Pac-Man than the others? I mean, for example, somebody knew the name of the Ghost Speedy. Not everybody knows that. So was there one of you that was more knowledgeable with the facts?
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you why. What happened is the 45 Pac-Man Fever was recorded in the fall of 1981 and was released and so forth. And after it became a national hit and was climbing, CBS Records said, look, we want an album. So, okay, great. We knew nothing about any of the other games. The reason we knew about Pac-Man is we had gone out and found people that played it and went through the different game rooms and arcades and was able to learn how to do it. Well, Gary, I usually would come up with the hooks and the music part and some lyrics and chorus, and then Gary would do a lot of the regular lyrics and the lines. He, as I said, came up with the first lyric. I had a pocket full of quarters headed to the arcade. So he would accumulate that information and know a little bit more about it. And we did that with each song. So to answer your question, yeah, he probably had more than I did, and I was glad to let him. I was glad to let him do it, because we were doing going to arcades, learning these games, writing the songs overnight, literally, and doing them in the studio. We recorded the album in 2 weeks, but I think it came out pretty good. But yeah, that's to answer your question. He probably would have more knowledge of that.
But did you guys just put together a song, or were some or all of you as passionate about it as we are or as we became?
As I had mentioned before, the original idea for Pac-Man came about because after we played the game and got hooked on it, we thought, we were doing jingles at the time here in Atlanta, and we thought, hey, if we do this song, maybe somebody will play the record locally and help us with the jingles. We really didn't thinking in terms of a national hit. So after we went into the studio and recorded it, we realized this is a really good record. So they played the record and it became a giant hit. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way to explain it, but it was just an inspired kind of a situation, and we just went for it.
Last question from me. Who had the highest score amongst you and your group?
Oh, Gary did by far. I wasn't that good.
I actually have a lot of stuff I want to ask you, a lot of things I want to share with you, things that happened with me. But I want to go silent now for other questions, because in the midst of playing the game during the several hours I'll play it, I want you to come back on for people to ask you commentary.
Okay, great.
So that's throwing you under the bus right now for later.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we have lots and lots of questions, and one of the other things that kind of came from this, right, Jerry?
My dog just opened the door here. I gotta go.
Buddy.
An 80-pound pit bull. You don't tell him what to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But lots of cool things came from Pac-Man Fever, right, Jerry? I mean, I know he was a worldwide hit, 2+ million albums sold. But tell us a little bit about some of the recent events, like Wreck-It Ralph, for example. I mean, let's see. Somebody was asking about Wreck-It Ralph. If I could find that question, can you talk about that?
Well, Wreck-It Ralph we got a phone call one day from Tom McDougall, and I hope Tom's watching. If you are, hello, Tom, at Disney. Tom is just a music genius. That's why he's where he is. I got a call from Tom McDougall back in late summer of 2011, and I guess it was 2012. I'm not sure. The brain was late summer, and he asked us if we would do a song for the Wreck-It Ralph movie, the first one that was coming out. And we said, of course. Gary unfortunately had passed away just a few months prior, so but we were still able to record the song, and Danny Jones sang it, did a great job, and that came about one of the things because of Pac-Man Fever. But Pac-Man Fever, it was just great. It was great doing it. It opened a lot of doors for us. We did a lot of other projects and different things since then, and it was just it kind of hey, we finally did something that everybody seemed to like. So that was one good thing about it. But it's just been fun to be a part of it. Something that people love, and they still love it. And that was one of the best rewards, I suppose. It was great.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry. And the other thing that I wanted to add, we had tons of questions here. For example, here's another one from Rick Artoon. Why was Speedy Pinky called a he in the song?
Oh, I'll blame that on Gary. he was writing the lyrics. I think there's been, correct me if I'm wrong, and Billy could answer this, of course, but I don't, have the names changed somewhat over the years? I don't know have they always been the same? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, the names have been the same, but there's the names, there's nicknames. Blinky is Shadow, and they all have two names. And then when you go over to Japan, they have additional names. And it was often believed that Speedy, the pink one, was called Speedy, and that was a mistake, because the speed of the pink one never increases in the game, but the speed of the red one increases incredibly in the game. So it was often believed in the game that they actually made that error when they put the names together. I don't know if that's true or not. Well, we're going to have to call Professor Ayatwani, and we'll get an answer on that.
Hey, Daniel, I got something I want to contribute. And what I was going to say is, why don't you look through those questions? Because I'm seeing a lot of great questions from a lot of great folks. So why don't you keep all four of us up on the screen and fire those questions over, and then whoever has the answer. But Jerry, this popped up on my Facebook. 5 years ago today, there you are. You and I were in Chicago with Billy.
That's right, we were.
5 years ago today. So that's one thing good about Facebook. It reminds you of your history. So Daniel, why don't you fire some of these good questions over here?
A great one. Absolutely. By the way, if you are here live, go ahead and get your questions into the chat. We are on Twitch. We're on Periscope. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. So we'd appreciate also if you would share this live stream. That would be awesome. Let's make it go viral. And we have a question here from Eclectic Lee. Great question. Question is, I know the original sound effects were recorded with an open microphone, but what kind of recorder? Just a cassette recorder, or were you lugging around professional equipment into the arcade machines?
That's a good question. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Question. And I don't know for sure. I'm going to guess. And if we had Greg, I don't know if he's even watching. Greg Quisnell, Fernie, we call him. I'm not sure what he used. I'm going to Mike. What would you guess? Probably
Fernie told me years ago it was a cassette deck. It was a high-end cassette deck because that was portable back in '82. I mean, big reel-to-reel recorder would have been a pain.
Yeah. I think it was pretty sure it's cassette.
It was a cassette deck with a good mic, and they went into arcades and put the microphone up to the stand-up machines, and that was the only way to capture those things. Then they transferred it over to multi-track 2-inch recording tape.
Awesome. Here's another great question from Jason Lindsay. How did you choose which games to write songs about or from for the Pac-Man Fever album?
Okay, well, we would, as I was mentioning earlier, we would go into an arcade and we would look at a game we didn't, a different game we didn't know, and we would find somebody who could play it. So I guess I don't remember exactly that we had a particular plan for. We would just go in and find whoever we could to tell us about a game. We never did a song on Space Invaders, which was huge at the time, and I'm guessing probably because it would have been hard to how do you use that title? But I think we would just pick out the popular games and somebody that knew how to play it, and we'd have to watch it and play it and learn all the terms and so forth. It was just kind of a hit or miss kind of a thing.
Jerry, I remember listening to you speak once. Nothing compares to Pac-Man Fever, but the other songs on the album, and I won't say what I think you said. I'll have you go ahead and give the answer. Was there a song as far as success that was number 2? And even if that was the most successful one, was that your second favorite one?
Well, I might surprise you if I said which one I actually really still love to hear. Centipede is one of my favorites. I love the tone, the quality of it. I love the minor chords. And Chris Bowman, who we have on the video, a very dear friend and played in all the songs, played just a fantastic lead on that. I love to listen to that lead. But as far as popular songs, there's the label picked Donkey Kong as the second single. But I think most people in our management wanted the Frogger song to be the single, but you can't tell CBS Records what to do. So that would have been probably the top 2 songs after Pac-Man, as far as I could tell.
And how many were on the album altogether?
Just 8. There was only 8 songs.
Okay, and I'm just gonna guess. I'm gonna guess that in 20 seconds you could not name all 8.
Ooh, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong. Okay. No,
Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Frogger, Centipede, Defender. Come on, Jerry.
You're cheating. You're looking.
No, I'm not cheating.
Well, you also notice he stopped after 5 songs too.
Mousetrap.
Yeah, going berserk. Come on, buddy.
Yeah, we're missing one.
Girl Like You.
I don't know if many people know this, but when we recorded the album, we started on the album and had recorded 2 tracks, and they weren't game songs. And CBS sent the vice president down just to kind of look over how things are going with the album. And he said, no, we got to have all game songs. Well, okay. And
did you have any pressure or any idea that you did Pac-Man? Well, let's face it, to the top of the chart as well. Went Miss Pac-Man. I mean, eventually there were other versions of Pac-Man, say Junior Pac-Man. Did you ever have any pressure to produce any of those songs?
No, never came up. No, never came up.
As a matter of fact, that's what DK Mikey77 asked. He says, "Hey, what about creating Miss Pac-Man song? Did you ever think about that?"
No, it never came up. I mean, Pac-Man Fever, the Pac-Man song was so huge. I guess it just didn't come up. It for us, it just encompassed everything, and we never.
I agree.
We weren't even really thinking about doing any more game songs. What we zeroed in on right after that was, the E.T. movie came out, the Spielberg movie, and we saw that, and we were touched like everybody. It was a great movie. And so we stayed up all night, recorded the E.T. I Love You song, which they went to California and played it for Steven Spielberg. And our manager told us, he called us, he said, he's played this record like as loud as he could in his office. He said just played it a bunch of times. And supposedly, I can't say for sure, but I was told, Arnie said that that Spielberg implied, I wish this had been in the movie. And so Arnie, our manager, said, I think they may recall the movie, which of course they didn't do, which would have been crazy. But that's how much he liked the song. But then the problems began with Neil Diamond having the Heartlight song, and he was a very big artist at the time. And so our song, even though when it got some play, it got #1 requests. We got put aside for the Heartlight record. But that's where we went after the album. So we weren't really thinking about doing any more, game songs.
Excellent.
Don't forget, Jerry, that that you went back in the studio and did Pac-Man Fever.
That's right. We did do that. Which went
because Pac-Man is what it was in Japan.
Original name.
And I believe Danny sang the background vocals on that, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. If he were here, he could tell us.
Well, I remember him talking about it because you guys went in, and the reason they didn't do Pac-Man in America is, well, you figure it out.
Yeah, it's obvious. Yeah.
I got another great question here, and thank you for that, Jerry. From Pac-Natic. Were you guys involved in the Pac-Man Fever video game for PS2 and GameCube?
No, we were not. Now, they wanted our song in that game originally, but it didn't work out. Our management folks, they couldn't come to an agreement, I guess. But no, we had nothing to do with that game.
Hey, Jerry, but we did do the Rock Band thing.
We did Rock Band, yeah, all the songs. We did that, and that was very successful. That worked. How many people out there did that? How many did the Rock Band with our song? I'd like to know. They were all.
I thought we did the whole album. I thought they did the whole album with that company.
Well, they did, but I'm saying that people that went and played. I wonder how many people out there went and.
As a musician, I could never play Rock Band or Guitar Hero. That was horrible.
Yeah.
Excellent. And by the way, if you are digging this live stream, I'd really appreciate it if you would go ahead and Hulk smash that like button, and of course share the video if you haven't yet done that with your own social sphere. Got another question here from Michael Kane. Great question, Jerry Buckner. What led you to re-recording the Pac-Man Fever album?
Well, CBS Records, back when everything was being transferred to CD back in the 90s, in the late 90s, they didn't release ours. They didn't do ours, and we're not sure why. There was a lot of contractual situations that came with the album because of the companies. Never really knew why, and so it didn't come out. Well, we kept getting requests from people saying, hey, please, we want this on CD. So we made the decision, and really Mike pushed this the most, because Mike was really ahead in the curve as far as knowing about internet and all that. So we decided to redo the album, and we got everybody back to do it, and we worked very hard trying to make it sound as close as we could. Now there's a lot of purists out there who can find parts that aren't the same, and I mean that's gonna there was a big time difference, but we tried real hard to be to get as close as we could.
And that was a blessing, because now. Maybe you've heard about in Nashville, the Taylor Swift thing where she wants to own her masters. Well, CBS paved a way for us to own our own masters, which has been really good to us for many, many years.
Yes.
Absolutely. Another great question here from a studio, I'll say Minpie? Besides Pac-Man Fever, what was your favorite song from the album? She says, I always loved Hyperspace Asteroids.
Yeah, I like both. I liked all of them. As I was saying earlier, if I sat down to listen to the album again, I would probably play Centipede first. I just love the chord progression in it, and I love Chris's guitar solo in there. But I liked I love Frogger. It was a powerful song. I like that a lot. Donkey Kong actually was from a jingle we did back in Atlanta back in the day. There was a roller skating chain, and we did this commercial, and it was similar, and everybody loved the commercial. And we thought, we took that idea and applied it to the Donkey Kong, and I think it worked out pretty good. So that's kind of where that song came from. But I would say, yeah, it would be Pac-Man, I mean, I love Pac-Man Fever. Someone asked me, are you ever tired of it? Never. I love that song. I love everything about it. But if I'm listening to the album, which I did just the other day, I was just kind of going through it. And I love Centipede, but I would say Frogger and would be second, and then Donkey Kong.
Awesome. The other question, if I lost it here though. First off, I wanted to say thank you so much, Scott Lambert, for sharing with the Underground Retrograde Facebook page. Thank you so much for that. And if you can share with your folks, I would really appreciate that as well. And of course, hit the little like button wherever you are. And let's see, the other question that I saw here came from, where did I see it?
I like Foxy the Tractor, Daniel.
The question is hiding in the tunnel.
Okay.
In and out the backside.
Yeah.
This is the one we're talking about here?
I think it's a good one. What do you think, Jerry?
All right, do it. Let's do it. When Wreck-It Ralph came out, how did the song Wreck-It Ralph come to mind in the favorite song I listened to? It is the favorite song. The Foxy is favorite song playing video games.
How did it come about? Is that the question?
How did the song Wreck-It Ralph come to mind?
Jerry, let me start it and then you finish it. Jerry, okay. I'm walking down to my boat, and Jerry calls me on the cell phone. He says, "Hey, you ain't gonna believe who called today. Disney called." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, they got this movie called Wreck-It Ralph, and they want us to do the song, and Gary's gone. What do you think?" I said, "If the mouse calls, Jerry, let's do it." So the next thing I know, we're putting the band back together, and we recorded that song, and you can tell about all the other people that were involved because the song was already written, and Jerry's got a great story on that.
Yeah, Jamie Houston, who's a great songwriter, producer. He's in Nashville, I believe but he was in California and worked with Disney quite a bit. Worked with a lot of the singers on what was the TV show?
Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana.
Yeah, but he also worked on some of the competition shows. Anyway, Jamie they came to Jamie and asked him if he could write something that would sound like from us, and he did, and sent a basic track to us. We made some a few changes in lyrics, and of course we made a few changes in the production. But he flew out here to help out when we did the recording, and then mixed it back in LA. And he was a great part of this thing. And it was great working with Jamie because he was a top pro. But that's where it came from, and that's how we did it. And we did it. The movie was coming out in about 3 months, so this was put into the movie at the last minute.
Awesome.
And Jerry, one thing that I'll point that I love to tell folks about, the guitar and bass was recorded at my house. The vocals were recorded at Danny's house. You did keyboards, I think, at my house. Jamie did keyboards in L.A. Everything was sent through the cloud in the internet, and it was mixed in L.A. and made it to the movie. So it was an internet production.
It was, and let me tell you a little secret that only a few people know. We wanted Gary to be a part of it. So what we did is we went in and we captured in the Pac-Man Fever record. There's a place in the solo where Gary, you probably heard it in this one. I did the old thing where it's the old and we pulled the out. And if you listen to the guitar solo in Wreck-It Ralph, in the middle of it, you hear Gary go So he was a part of that. We want him to be in there. So I want to share that.
Awesome. Billy, I have a question for you here from Marleyman999. Just wondered how Billy kept up his motivation to keep playing after getting the perfect game.
Well, it's funny you mention that because being the age that I am, I remember watching the U.S. win the Olympic gold in hockey against the Russians. And I remember listening to the speech that was given by the team captain. And in the speech, he said that he had achieved the ultimate goal or the ultimate honor he could have ever hoped for. And so when I came back from Japan after the perfect score, after the video game player of the century, that was my attitude. That was my mindset. I was even quoted as saying, I never have to play that damn machine again. But we traveled to conventions. We traveled to enjoy them. And there were always cameras following us, always. And when I'm at these conventions, a little obsessive nature I have is to try to do as much as I can for the convention to promote what it was they're doing, how they're keeping the hobby alive, and again, to advocate for other competitive game players. And so I found myself interacting with them. And every time I had to do something, whether it was for a camera or for a movie or for an interview, I mean, I obviously have to do my very best to do it. And so I found myself playing on an intense level. And I kept saying, I don't want to do this anymore. But different things kept pulling me back to it. It was the old Michael Corleone joke. Every time I'm out, they pull me back in. And so I guess I have this thought in my mind, because I'll go to a show and I'll say, gee, let me just play a few, of 3 boards, 4 boards. And then people begin to gather. And it's like, I can't just play 3 or 4 boards. I got to play 3 or 4 boards. Awesome. Perfect. And so I get caught in this web, but I guess it's a web that I enjoy. And I continue to try to push forward. And I try to continue to do things that simply haven't been achieved. I keep telling myself I'm going to stop doing this. I just don't stop doing it. And then again, if I can throw the monkey on Jerry's back, meeting people like him, going with him to the 35th anniversary of Pac-Man. Now we're here at the 40th. We've been to shows in Atlanta. As he pushes his positive agenda, history, and legacy forward, I mean, I feel compelled to do the same thing. And he and I are not the only ones. There's Jerry. We often cross paths with, say, David Bishop. We cross paths with Walter Day. We cross paths with, Doc Mack, people who have the similar passion. And we're all pushing, our passion or our hobby. And it just doesn't seem to go away. And I guess at this point or at this age, I think maybe that's good, because if I didn't do this, I don't know, maybe what else would I do? I don't know.
We should mention Richie Knuckles, one of our good buddies.
Yes,
Richie.
Absolutely. And again, when we're talking all the way back into the 80s, and then in the 90s, as I say, there was a rebirth or re-interest in classic gaming. Masaya Nakamura, who was so good to me, the father of Pac-Man, he said the perfect score would be responsible to reignite the interest in classic gaming. So I guess I wanted to prove him right. Now, you mentioned Richie, and I didn't cross paths with him until 2010. So everybody who's helped add to the inspiration, we didn't all meet in the 80s. We keep crossing paths. Maybe there's more people to meet that'll help push it even further. But he's certainly one of them.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Billy. Appreciate those insights. Another question here from Michael wants to know how it came about that Pac-Man Fever would be used in the Family Guy, because I think it was used in the Family Guy, it was used in the Simpsons.
Well, I think some of those characters were modeled after Jerry, weren't they?
Hey, it was all me. I'm the guy that did it. I made the website. They found him and they called Jerry, and it's all me. I did everything. Jerry did nothing. It was my A stuff, Jerry. It was my A stuff.
Very good, very good. Yeah, they just they wrote the song into the script and wanted to put the song on there, and paid us very nicely. We said thank you very much, and they used it. It was really cool seeing Homer Simpson actually sing part of the song on one of the episodes. That was a real thrill. You made it when Homer Simpson sings the lyrics to your song.
Hey, Jerry, I just thought of something. Singing. I think everybody on this virtual live stream should sing happy birthday to Pac-Man.
Yeah, let's do it.
So are you ready?
Yeah.
Now, Billy, you going to sing with us?
I'm with you.
All right. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Pac-Man. Happy birthday to you.
Waka, waka, waka,
Now,
waka.
folks, Yay!
was
That
just-
proves.
Up on that one. That deserves a like. Come on, I never sing.
Come on, I sure hope you don't make an album out of that.
Well, let me explain something to you. This is why you don't music over streaming, because there's a 5-second delay and there's no way in hell to be in sync.
Well, it should have been a complete delay, a lifetime delay on that one.
Hey, you know what? It's his birthday. We're here because of Pac-Man's birthday. We should have at least sing the guy happy birthday.
Well, we did. And I'm sure.
Well, Jerry, remember when I was in Chicago on Pac-Man's birthday? I brought Pac-Man cookies. I don't suppose anybody did that today, did they?
Yeah, where's the Pac-Man cookies? There's all kinds of Pac-Man.
I think Walter ate them.
I don't.
Hey, you know, we've been going an hour, guys. How many more questions do you guys want to take? Are people in? I'll tell you what. Let's ask the chat. You guys want to go longer? I know, Billy, you got to get back to your Twitch feed. Do you want us to keep going?
Whatever questions I got, we can answer.
Hey, we got nothing to do.
I mean, I can always fire questions. Only for you three, and no Googling. No Googling.
Uh-oh. Okay.
In 1982, the popularity of songs were determined by how many 45s were sold. So, without shouting out the answer, what number did Pac-Man make it to?
Which chart? Billboard?
Yes.
I know.
That's unbelievable to me that Daniel or Mike might not know. That is unbelievable. And see, I say it because, I have a good memory.
Thanks a lot.
You don't forget something like that.
Right. I tell you, don't tell me anything you don't want me to forget.
Number 9. That peaked at number 9.
Hey, I know something about Billboard, Billy. Who had 3 songs on the chart at the same time?
Probably you.
No, Jerry. What were the 3 records, Billy?
No, I only know him for 1 record, but that's another story.
All right, you go, Jerry. I know the answer to this one.
Well, Pac-Man Fever, WKRP in Cincinnati. We did that song for the TV show. And I guess you're including...
Footprints.
What's that?
Footprints was at the same time.
Footprints, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. I can only remember so much.
So one of the things that these and so many more stories are in the Pac-Man Fever book, along with all of the album, sheet music. There's several different versions of the song, plus a karaoke version of the song. This is a really multimedia packed ebook that I do want to invite you, if you are interested. The reason to go get it right now today is essentially you make history. To go get the Pac-Man Fever book on the 40th anniversary. You could have that, keep your receipt. You could even put it up on the wall. If you are that into 80s pop culture, cool thing to do. Let me show you how to go about getting that. In fact, if you take out your camera phone right now and just scan this QR code that you see right here, that will actually take you directly over to Amazon, and you can go grab that. And then you'll have it on the receipt with the date on Pac-Man's 40th birthday. So yeah, just grab your phone or just go over to Buckner Garcia /book. That also works. And then if you're on YouTube, I think there's a couple different YouTube channels we're on now. It's below as well. There's little description links, so head on over there, and it'll take you directly over to Amazon and go grab the book for $4.99. It's quite a bargain. All right, so
should we close out the show and replay the video again to close out the show? What do you think?
Whatever you got.
Billy, whatever you guys want to do, we can do.
Let's wish Billy good vibes, good luck today. We want you to do that again, Pac-Man.
And then I even wonder if later on in the stream, if maybe I can harass one of you guys to play it late in the game. So we'll see.
All right.
Yeah, you know, there's 1,000 things we'd like to do, but technology, as we learned over the past couple of days, we got to find our way through it.
Well, let's do another live video down the road. I think we should do one, all of us together, and do
Hey,
some.
invite Richie and Bill and Walter, and hey, I think we can have up to 10 people in one of these things, Billy. So let's have a Pac-Man reunion soon.
Let's ask the audience. What do you think? Would you all like to do that before, this is the month of the birthday, sometime maybe in the next week or so? Let us hear from you in the chat. I don't know if we can put it together that quickly, but maybe. And we really would appreciate hearing from you. And with that, what I'm going to do is we're gonna end here with a reprise here of Pac-Man Fever, and go grab the book. And thanks so much. Yes, sir.